Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, today is a celebration. We just hit over 1 million downloads, 5 million social media impressions, all because of you showing up every single day. I love you guys and I appreciate you guys. Guys, this is going to be an amazing episode. If you stay till the end, my brother Chase is going to tell you some things that's going to change your life and your business today. My brother Chase has got some amazing things going on. He's done so many amazing things in business that I'm going to let him tell you about them. But I was shocked when I found out that when he left his last company, how much he walked away with and what he's doing now to change the world that we live in. So Chase, my brother, welcome to the show. Thank you for finally coming on the show.
Hey, Richard. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, the opportunity. And I look forward to having this conversation today.
I love it. And like I said, I've been stalking you for the last 2 weeks since I knew we were going to be on the show. Your IG is fire. I love your TikToks. I think everything you're doing is fire. So I just want to say you're crushing it. And I'm so grateful that you are in my inner circle now.
No, I'm thankful to be here. And I'm excited to have this conversation and see where it goes.
So I love it. So let me, because I do have a traumatic brain injury. And if I don't ask the question, I forget it.
Sure.
What is your definition of resiliency?
I mean, I think the value of a human is not what you can do with money, but without it. And so, having the opportunity to help people and do things is great. But, I think building something from nothing and figuring out how to do that, not many people can do. And so there's a lot of things in our life that take us off course. For me, I had a very big public car accident that happened in 2021. And that really changed my life. And I was facing 6 years in prison, and I essentially worked my way out of that and kind of rebuilt my whole entire life. So, I think, when people are faced with adversity, you either crumble or you power through it. And my definition of resilience is being able to power through it like a bulldozer, and just, take the lumps and realize you either fucked up or, you just got to get better, and like Jordan Peterson always says, the only way to define yourself if you're getting better is just getting a little bit better today than yesterday. Right. And so I think that's all we can do in this world. And as long as you're making those little baby steps, even though it feels like you're not moving and you're on a treadmill, because then sometimes when your life's fucked up, you feel like you're on a treadmill and it's not going fast enough to get yourself out of the quicksand. But at the end of the day, those baby steps turn into leapfrogs, and you start making progress, and people start to see that. And I think, we don't do it for the people to see that, but a lot of times, that's kind of what drives us, because, we don't want to be seen as the person that we were seen before, so.
Now, I love it. Now, if somebody would look at you, Chase, today, they would see the whole fintech, the whole fintech success. Now the wish, they would see the success now, but they don't see the journey, and they don't see, the struggle. So let's hop in the Wayback Machine. Tell us a little bit about where you come from, where did you grow up, and how did you become the force that you are today?
Yeah, I think, I felt like I was always the underdog. I was always getting overlooked. And I think the only way that I knew how to control my own destiny was to be my own boss. And so I leapt right into it at a young age. At 19, I started my first business. That failed. I got more money from my mom at the time and tried to make that work. It took me a while, but I turned $5,000 into $40 million a year. And then that was really all built through building relationships and knocking on doors and kicking down doors and talking to people and making things happen. Didn't really have the college education because I dropped out. Not that you really needed it, or it would have helped because I was studying kinesiology, which doesn't really help you when you're selling things.
Yep.
um, but I realized in 2014 that I need to start building technology, building value, really. If I wasn't able to build value in the payments ecosystem, because payments is a commodity business, it's the only business that has like a true residual value outside of insurance, where you can actually set up a client and then make money on that client for years, every month, and that compiles and that turns into a great exit eventually. But if you're only selling on price alone, which was my skill set, I was just selling, not building, and I was always afraid to build because I was afraid of how people were going to see me. And I think that that self-image that I had of myself really was irrelevant because no one saw me the way that I saw myself. And, the reality is most people don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just go out there and do it. It takes a guy with brass balls or a girl with brass balls to go out there and make things happen and take risk, and if you fail, people are going to see it. And, but that's the risk you take to try to make things happen. And, I went through 11 years of that, trying to innovate, failing. And, I took comfort in the fact that, Elon Musk said, if you're not failing, you're not innovating. And so I was just like, well, hey, it's okay to fail all the time. But, at some point it's brutal as a startup founder building things. It takes a toll on you to lose all the time, and to constantly fail and not see the fruits of all that hard work that you're doing. So, when you talk about resiliency and you talk about these things, it really just takes a lot. There's a lot of pressure. You have investor pressure, you have, production pressure, client pressure, and all these different things when you're building things. And so I think that was a huge learning experience for me, because when I built that $40 million business, I did that by myself. I had an assistant, but I really was just Chase. Chase is the one, I did everything. And so then all of a sudden, I had 150 employees and, all these engineers and salespeople. We speak Chinese and English.
Mhm.
They don't, and visionaries, like, we need to get the hell out of the way sometimes. And, I was all the way in the way and up into the cracks. And so, it was, it was difficult. But, you learn so much. And that journey was, everyone says, well, the journey is great. Like all these entrepreneurs and, you see these leaders, they're like, the journey is like, blah, blah. It's like, the journey sucks, dude. It sucks. It's not fun. And anyone that tells you that the journey is so awesome, it's someone that's like already sitting at the top and they're like, listen, the journey, blah, blah, blah. But when you're in the journey is shitty. And it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of anxiety and it's a lot of stress. And I think that's the stuff that people don't see. They see you on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you have this happy life, but inside you're like dying, because there's just so much shit going on that people just don't see. But that's the reality. I think most of social media, everyone has their own shit that they're dealing with. Mine happened to be the pressure of all the things that I was going through and trying to deliver and just having a hard time doing that. And, but it kind of set me up to build something special with Wishes because I had spent 11 years trying to figure it out. I did figure it out. I had an exit, thankfully. And, escaped out of there with my my hair on the chinny chin, but, I didn't do too bad. And, I was able to really turn that into, this is also one of those things where you're like, everyone's like, oh, well, you didn't fail, you learned, right? And when you think about failing, you go, dude, that's such bullshit. But when you actually can apply it, when you actually can apply it, and you can say, hey, listen, those last 11 years, yeah, I did make it out. I didn't do exactly what I wanted to do, but I learned so much that now I was able to build a fantastic product, and do it instead of 11 years, I did it in a year and a half. And I had built the team the right way. I had all the right engineers. We have all the right board. Everything kind of fit into place. Whereas the first time it was just like, you had to figure it out, and figuring it out isn't always the prettiest thing to see. In fact, it's probably pretty ugly. and and terrible, it's like a cobweb of bullshit that you're spinning, and you just try to keep going it out with because all founders and entrepreneurs, we're all optimists. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this crazy shit, so we all believe that we can do it, and we all like want to keep that faith. And so you always hang on to that stuff. And, you know, um, because at the end of the day, when you have all these employees and shit's not going right, you have to captain the ship and keep everyone on board, because everyone, if you don't have faith, the rest of that ship's like later, so, you really have to kind of go with it. So this is a long-winded thing, but I think that kind of answers, hopefully that question. So,
It's an amazing answer, but I want to go back
yeah.
because, like I grew up in a very abusive household. And for me, my solace was books. I love learning. I love knowledge. I'm not a tech guy. I'm a low tech redneck, but I'm a ninth grade dropout, but I've read over 6,000 books, and I think I have 18 going right now and 2 audio books.
Oh.
So talk to us about, young Chase. Were you a reader? Were you somebody that soaked up knowledge?
I'd say like I had some of the brightest mentors in the world, but I'm such a hardhead that I don't necessarily listen all the time. If I believe I can do something or go down a certain path, it's almost like I have to test that theory. Because I still believe in my head, like my gut instinct overpowers some of my natural instincts sometimes. And I think, or just, understanding. So I've learned from the school of hard knocks. I'm more of an audio book guy than a reader guy. I can't like really sit still to read a book, but I'm great at the audio books. I can fly through, a few of those a week. Even like the really long ones, I'll like sit down there. Like the Elon Musk one was like a 24-hour audio book. And yeah, I did it in a couple of days. I think I just get pretty nerdy with it. But, the only thing that I can really sit down and really kind of dig myself into is self-help and things that I think that will have some sort of benefit to me. I can't sit there and read fiction or nonfiction or whatever. And, and just think about some fantasy world that doesn't exist, or some story about some story that's just made up. It's got to be real for me to actually want to dig into the details and get immersed in that. So, and potentially have some sort of benefit for me because I'm spending my time doing it. So yeah, that's
okay.
Kind of that.
So now 19 years old, when I was 19, I don't think I was sober enough to even try to think about starting a business. So
Yeah.
What was the thought process in saying, hey, Ma, can I borrow some cash? I want to start a business. And what was how did that conversation go? And how did it kick off from there?
So when I dropped out of college, I essentially, this is back when newspapers were a thing. And so I answered an ad in the classified newspapers, and it was for credit card processing or credit cards. And back then, this is 1998, right? So, credit cards was still a pretty new thing, right? Honestly, it was still kind of like up in an emerging market. Most merchants, most of them, like 50% of them didn't even take credit cards at the time. So I answered this thing. This guy had an office. He had like the telemarketers. He had the preset appointments. We'd go out there and knock on doors and then try to do the thing. And I got really good at this. And then I was running a sales office within a month. And then I got a glimpse of how much money he made. And then I quit the next day and asked my mom for $3,000 because I thought that's all it took to start a business. And, after you pay rent, on the office with, I had a couple partners. Again, first big learning mistake was 2 partners. One of them I didn't know. I ended up hating that guy, and we just didn't get along. And so that business, I had to get out of there because I felt like I was the only one working. I remember I walked in, I was walking around like trying to cold call in these businesses. It was like 100 degrees outside, and I was sweating my things off, and I was knocking on doors and stuff. And I was like, man, so I drove all the way over to Fremont. So I was in Santa Clara, which Fremont's about it's like an hour drive or something. So I go over to Fremont, and these 2 guys were playing video games inside of the AC office. And I was like, later, dude, I can't do this. I was like, I can't be the only one putting on deals. And in working with you guys. The only reason I did that was because we needed more money. $3,000 wasn't enough, clearly, to start a business. And so the three of us together, we all borrowed money. We had like $9,000, so that $9,000, I ended up not being able to finish that business. And then, went and asked my mom for more money. And then she hesitantly gave me a few more $1,000, and I turned that into a pretty large business by myself. And then the rest is kind of history from there.
All right. So now, because for me, my first sales job ever was door to door. And my second, I had the three hardest jobs ever. My first sales job was door to door. My second was selling timeshare, and my third was selling cemetery plots. So I think I've taken more no's in my life than ever. But I think everybody should at least try door to door, at least to take a lot of no's and to learn how to start reading people. What are your thoughts?
Hey man, I sold Kirby vacuums, and I sold Craftmatic beds. Now try to sell an $8,000 Craftmatic bed, like door to door. That's tough, But the very first month that I remember, the very first month that I did the Craftmatic bed stuff, I made like 10 grand my first month selling those damn beds. And but it was like the craziest door to door experience of my career. Definitely. One that I remember. So door to door, it teaches you a lot. It's definitely not back like it was in 98. You know what I mean? Or even when you were doing it. I mean, now it's probably a lot tougher to do than it was back then. It's not like it was easy back then, but definitely the game has changed. And, but you definitely learn a lot about yourself. Like, hey, like it's not easy. It's not for everyone, but if you can do that in sales, then if you can successfully do door to door, then you can successfully sell almost anything, So
what happened after you took the business to 40 mil? What happened after that?
Well, I realized, so I was big in the hospitality space, and I had signed up thousands of hotels, and because I had a big hotel association. And so, but every year they were asking me to reduce their fees. And clearly, if you're just making money on a commodity product, and every year you're making less and less and less, even though you're doing the same exact service. I realized at that moment, I was like, dude, if I don't start building something like that creates more value, because Stripe was coming into the market at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Stripe basically made it easy for merchants, and they obviously super successful company, but they were the first ones to come onto the scene that was really kind of digitizing the experience, making it seamless to board and easy to connect your payments. And every other processor in the country was very manual process, right? So you go get the paperwork, you got to get the voided check, and you give me all these documents. So when you compare the processes, yeah, we were saving the money, but if Stripe was charging like twice the cost, right? But they made it so much easier that the clients never even asked about the cost. So what I realized was that, if you create a lot of value, the cost doesn't matter as much. So I knew that I had to create value, otherwise there was no loyalty. And so that's really when I decided to make that transition. I could have kept building that business and just been fine the rest of my life, but because I'm a crazy person and wanted to try to do something that I had no experience doing, I think that's just my nature, is that I just have to do it. If I think I can do it, and I feel like there's an opportunity long term, because I really am like a long term thinker. It's like, hey, like, yeah, I can make millions of dollars now, but like, what does this mean in like 2 years from now, right? If I just continue down this path, if I don't change my trajectory, then I potentially could lose nothing, and then I'll be 2 years behind. You know what I mean? So I have to start now, even if that means that I fail or try and don't do it right. You have to build that experience in order to get to where you want to go, and have a long-term game plan. And so I think I've really kind of always looked long-term, to try to at some point, like, have some sort of stability that can carry me on forever, right? And I had enough money at the time to kind of start building that dream. So I put $2 million into the first prototype, and then we raised a whole bunch of money and turned that into a thing. But it was a painful process. It's something that I have a lot of battle scars from, and but you can't read a book and do this stuff. You really just have to learn on the fly, and that's the only way that I really know how to learn is that you can have an MBA or whatever, but until you get into until you actually carry the gun and you're fighting on the field, like there's nothing like it. You got to be out there in the weeds chopping them down. Like you can't say you know how to chop trees down if you've never chopped a tree down. So, and I
But
think
now,
that's
I'm also, because I'm thinking, there had to be a point where you're sitting around with your boys, having a beer, having a drink, and one of them just turns on you and says, "Chase, what the fuck are you thinking?" And so I'm sure that there had to be people who be like, "Wait a minute, you can sit here and get fat, dumb, and happy, have the beautiful model, have the beautiful sports cars, but here you are going to start something new." So what was that like? Because I'm sure one of your boys had to say that.
Oh yeah. And I mean, and then I have a lot of friends that were, doing very well at a very high level. So it's difficult because when you're at that level and you're already making that money, and then you're giving it all up to try to build something bigger for the future, you're sacrificing it all now. So you basically leave that lifestyle because all that money that you could have had, you're dumping back into something that could potentially be valuable later. Right. And I think that was the hard part for me because I'm like, dude, these guys don't even know what I'm like. This like nobody really knows what you're going through because your journey is always going to be your own. And everyone has their own struggles. But for me, like to be at a level where I was doing so financially well to basically putting all that money back into something that could potentially be something later, but really sacrificing my lifestyle and my family's lifestyle to try to do that, and then not be able to do it in the time frame that I needed to do it, that I thought I was going to do it in my mind. It was a hard thing for me to do. It was a difficult process, and of course my friends were like, "Dude, what the fuck?" But I was basically going, "What the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Like, I could have just fucking, why am I struggling so hard to try to build something that could be something? This is fucking crazy, and there was definitely nights where I was just like, what the fuck am I doing good? Like, I don't know. Like, but when you're deep into the weeds, like if you don't keep chopping the weeds down, they just swallow you up. So like you don't have a choice at that time. I was like, well, I'm pot committed. Part of my philosophy is burn the ships, and sometimes you wish you actually had one ship left. You're like, wait, don't burn it. Like, just keep that one alive, but when you actually burn them and you're like, well, fuck, like it's fucking all or nothing, bro. Like, it's like, I know, and this is, as reading, I'm either going to be very, very wealthy or very, very broke. There is no fucking in between for me. It's like, I'm broke or I'm rich. That's it. There is no in between. Like, I am not ever going to be a middle class. I will never be in a situation where I'll be working like to try to make a wage. Like, I will either be very successful or I will be dead broke. That's just it.
And I love that, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. But I want to thank our sponsors. Obviously, you got my book. You said you read it, and I'm so grateful and humbled for you for that. Yes. Guys, I wrote a book. It's called A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light. 2-time #1 bestseller. All the profits and proceeds go to help people struggling with PTSD and homelessness. So guys, if you're interested in a true Rocky story, pick up the book. You'll be satisfied. And there's a new book coming out, but I can't tell you about that right now. But because the only reason I mention that is because for me, it's either I'm going to be stumbling drunk or I'm going to be stone cold sober. There's no middle ground for me. And I guess that's my addictive personality. With 35 years clean and sober, I'm either all in on something or I'm all out on something. Yep. And I'm a big Shark Tank guy. I've talked to Herjavec. I've talked to the guys there, and they've told me that if somebody is dabbling in business, we're not
Yeah.
going to invest in your business if you're dabbling. So
Sure.
talk about that, about being all in on your business and yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I live my life. I also had, my own problems with alcohol in the past. And so like, I think, but that's just how I live my life. Is like it is all or nothing. Like I'm either drunk or I'm not, right? Or I'm going to the moon or I'm not. I think there is only one way to pursue a dream. And if you don't, the only person that can say the only person that says that it's over is you. So if you're basically pussyfooting around and you have 1 foot out, 1 foot in, like there's no chance. You have zero chance, because growing a business, to successfully grow a business, it requires like full-time dedication. There's people out there that'll say, hey, work your job, then do this on the side. And like, if you want to actually build something big, that's not a thing. You know what I mean? So you gotta basically go, shit, like if I'm gonna take a risk, I might, because like, and there was a good video, like a Jim Carrey, like he did some sort of video where he said he was talking about his dad, and his dad had this job, and he saw that his dad like all of a sudden like lose everything. So it's like if you have a short we have a short window to be here. You know what I mean? Like this is it. Like I'm 44. This is like I'm on the almost on the second half of my life, I would say. So like from here out, like what am I going to do with my time? Like if I'm going to spend my time trying to just make ends meet, like, and then there's a potential chance that I could just fucking be gone. Like, why? Like, I need to use my time, and go all in on something that matters to me and matters potentially to other people. Like, if I think that I can do something to cultivate change, and I think that I can do something to be the change, or to really change the trajectory of my family's life, then I'm gonna I'm gonna go all in on that. And if it doesn't work, then that's on me. But at least I'm controlling that destiny. You know what I mean? I'm never gonna be in a situation where I potentially, you know, could try to just make ends meet, and then be at square zero. If I'm gonna be at square zero, it's because like I failed. And then I'll start over again. But I need to be
Now,
in
in
control.
that same interview with Jim Carrey, because I've seen the same interview and I've watched it many times,
Yeah.
he came home that day and wrote out a check for himself for $10 million,
Right. That's pretty
put it
trippy.
in, and put it in his wallet. So he
Yeah.
said sometimes he would be so hungry, and every time he would reach into his wallet, he would see that check. So that
Right.
would get him to stay motivated and to stay pumped up and to not listen to all the naysayers. So
Right.
talk to us about the first day when you're out of the old company and you're into the new. What were some of the steps that you took to start seeing the next and creating the next vision?
Yeah. Well, so I think what really it kind of started when when you go to the grocery stores, and everyone's asking you for $1, and you really never know where that dollar goes. And so I was just actually irritated because every store seems to be asking you for money now, and you really never know what happens to that money. And then later you see a TV commercial, and they're like, we gave $40 million to blah blah. It's like, well, did you? And like like when no one's looking, what happens to that money? CBS had an $800 million fine because they put their hand in the cookie jar. And it's not like big news because obviously they buried that story, but that's actually the truth. And they're a huge retailer, right? And so I also was started giving to charities more often, and trying to make an impact, because you either have money or you have time, right? And if you don't have the time, then why are you giving? People give to people. So you want to understand the connection. And I think in charitable giving, you lose that connection today. You never understand what happens to the money. You never understand where it goes. And if you're not if you don't have that connection, like, why are you doing it? So we wanted to build transparency, solve the macro problem of transparency. So for donors, as a donor, I had spent the last 11 years building virtual credit card technology that can absolutely solve that problem. And so turning a purchase into a sale by essentially turning that money into a virtual credit card, So when you think about a donation, we turn those donations into virtual credit cards and attach them and can instantly deliver them to the Apple Google Wallet. And then we've built a store, almost like the Apple Store, but this one's full of all the big box retailers. So think about like, Office Max, Costco, Safeway, Kroger's, Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, Sam's Club, all the biggest retailers, that we all shop at today, Amazon. We built a platform to instantly deliver those funds and instantly allow those wishers in our system to spend those dollars. So if you think about the delivery today through platforms like GoFundMe, if you have a story, you won't get those funds for at least 10 days. Facebook doesn't deliver them for almost 90 days, and Instagram doesn't deliver them for 45 days. So in our platform, we can deliver them in 24 hours. In addition, donors always understand where the money is going. They can always understand how it's being spent in real time. So they keep that connection to those dollars, and they can always understand the impact that they're making. In addition, everything that goes through our platform is tax deductible, and all the crowdfunding platforms out there today, if you've ever given through any of those platforms, like a GoFundMe or something like this, you never understand where the money goes. But not only that, nothing's really tax deductible. So, because you can't really give to an individual and actually have it be a tax deduction. However, through our platform, we have a 501c3 public charity. So when you donate, that public charity actually, it governs that impact to that individual or to that crisis or charity. So all of our donors get a tax deductible event, and they have a dashboard. And I think, when you have these crises that happen all the time, there's lots of scams out there, right? And you never really know. They pop up like all over the place, especially when you have a crisis. Then it's like all these new charities pop up. You're like, shit, which one do I give to? Like, how do I know? Well, through our platform, we validate all those. We validate all those outside resources. So you always know that you're giving to a valid source. You always can see how those funds are being spent. And if you want to support a certain category like airfare, hotel, or whatever like this, you actually can get rewards and cash back on those donations, in addition to understanding where that money is being spent. So I think we solved the macro problem. All the biggest problems that exist in charitable giving today, I think, our Wishes is able to solve, and it helps nonprofits raise money too, because nonprofits have a hard time raising money. Why? Because of all the shit that's gone on in the past, right? It's like people don't trust, like, what's going to admin, what's going to impact. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to give unless I understand. Well, you're never going to understand today unless you're using a platform like Wishes. So,
all right. So, but let me ask you, because when you left your last venture, you walked out with $8 or $9. You walked away with a bunch of money. Yeah. I'm going to let you tell the story. But the reason I want to ask that is not because of the money thing, but is because I keep an empty cup here on my desk. It's my own cup. It's Vertical Momentum Coffee, but it's empty. And the reason I keep it on my desk is I realize that if my cup is empty, I can't pour somebody else a drink if my cup is empty. Sure. So if you don't have money or finances, you're not going to be able to help somebody else if you can't even help yourself. That's why I want you to talk about how you left your last company, how much you left with, and then then I want to talk a little bit about Wish more.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the 9 digits, that we sold it for. So I didn't do too terrible, but I think it goes back to what you're just saying, is that it's like when you go on the airline and they're like, put your mask on first, to save someone else. Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially because people freak out, and there's got to be somebody there that actually can deliver and help people to do those things. And I think through our platform, the reality is that, yeah, you can't always help the reality is today is that you can't always help someone financially sometimes, but you want to be able to participate in some way. And so I think what we've also done through our platform is made it easy for people to send messages to wishers through our platform, so they can participate in some way and say, hey, listen, send prayers or messages to people through our platform, because we wanted to make it accessible for everybody. And I think, there is truth in the fact that you really can't make as big of an impact, if you don't have the ability to give. Um, but you can still make a difference in someone's day. And I think, we wanted to make that a thing, where anyone can participate, and help make a difference and inspire some confidence in the people that need the help. And then also kind of connect those volunteer opportunities so people that do have the time or maybe not the financial resources can actually participate in events that might be inspiring to them. So, um, one of the things that I've always said is like, no one's going to give a shit until you actually matter. That's what I say to myself is like, no one's going to listen to me unless I've done something or, made something or, produced something that's useful. And I think to me, that's the most important thing. And, I'm living proof that, through all the thick and thin and all the bullshit that's happened, you can still create something meaningful and be a productive member of society and actually deliver, some high value stuff. And, but I think, in order for people to want to listen to you, you have to do something meaningful. And that could be being successful. That could be, making an impact. There's a variety of different things that could be, that could mean, but, yeah, I mean, you have to do something to actually for people to give a shit. So
Because you figure if somebody walks out with a 9-figure deal, that's when you could really be fat, dumb, and happy. Um, but it's kind of like I'm a big Elon guy. I like Elon, but he's always on to the next thing. He's not on to just I built a spaceship. I've done this. He's always on to the next thing, and he's always, like you said, he's always trying to make impact. And I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk guy. He started me on my road. But something that he always talks about is that your legacy will always be more valuable than your currency.
right.
And it's amazing how people they're only looking so short-sighted instead of looking long-term and looking towards legacy. That's why I love what you're doing. But I also wrote some stuff, and I'm not going to say good or bad. I'm going to tell people, if you're watching,
Sure.
I want you to do some research on the American Cancer Society, Goodwill, Red Cross, Wounded Warrior Project. See where the real money is going. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So guys, so definitely check out when you put your money somewhere, make sure you know where the actual money's going.
Yeah.
So, I love what you're doing. So, talk to us, because I'm sure there was a day where you got out of your last business and then you're like, what's next? And so what was that whole thought process? Was like, okay, I have the money, but now I want to create more impact that's going to impact my life, hopefully my children's, my grandchildren, and down the road.
Well, I think, during that time, that's when I had that accident and like, all those things in my life changed. And, I was at the risk of losing everything, and so I made a decision that, listen, what do I, because I have a 15-year-old son and I want him to be proud of me, not just like for, me going out there and making money and trying to do something, but something that could leave a lasting legacy. And something that, and I just started really looking at my own mortality, like, hey, like, I could be gone tomorrow. If I'm gone tomorrow, like, what did I actually do here? Besides actually make myself some money and some, investors some money. Is like, I didn't really do anything to me that was actually very meaningful, that could have a greater impact on the world around us. And so I wanted to figure out how could I solve a big problem and, help inspire other people to want to get involved. And I think what we've done at Wishes is really create that. And it didn't really take me long. I honestly, like, it was almost immediate. So I didn't, when I think about ideas, one of my friends had put this idea in my head, because we had been arbitraging credit cards, and so getting the cash back, and and arbitrating that middle interchange to make money on the money, and like rewards cards and things like this. And so they were asking me, how do we do something long term that we can potentially make money forever? And I was just like, well, so that's actually how this whole idea kind of this thing started. And that was a conversation that happened right after this. And so that's how we actually created the rewards element in our platform, where people can actually earn the cash back and rewards on those donations. But then I was like, well, listen, like this cannot just be like, we can actually make something that really changes the world, and I think has a greater impact. And I had already had a nonprofit that I started in 2020 that was specifically built to help founders create businesses, because I just knew how hard it was to create a successful business, and how challenging it was. And so I wanted to help other founders do the same. And but it was kind of just left blank there, and we were on our third year of having to file and obviously make sure that we were going to keep everything up to date. And so we repurposed that private foundation into a public 501c3, and then made that the core fundamental building block for the platform, which today is Wishes. And so I think this idea kind of started as something completely else initially, back in 2020. And because I already had that piece like in place, and we started talking about this reward element, I was like, well, listen, as a donor, donors don't really get rewarded for much. It's like you give, you don't understand what happens to the money. Like there is no connection. Like what if we actually flip this on their head? And so it's not just rewarding these charities and these individuals that are getting this money, but like really making it donor centric. How does the world go around? Like everyone says, well, it's the cause. And I believe it is the cause. There's two sides of the marketplace, but where does that empowerment start? It starts with the donor, right? The donors are the ones that are emotionally connected to the story, that want to help someone. And so I feel like the donor, in my eyes, and my CEO will disagree, but in my eyes is the most important element to that platform, because there's lots of stories, there's lots of people, there's lots of causes that need help, right? But if you can actually connect the donors with the platform, that they're always understand where their money goes, and they're actually getting rewarded for that experience. Although they don't necessarily, that's not the reason they're doing it. But if all things are created equal, and you always knew where your money was going, and you were getting rewarded for it at the same time without doing anything different, and you were always getting that tax deductibility, I mean, is it even choice, really? Like why would you do it any other way? And I felt like, if people always understood where their money was going, that they'd give more and more often. And really, if we're empowering donors to do that, then we're really changing the world in a bigger, meaningful way, because more causes, more people, more charities, more causes will get the support that they need, because the fact that donors are really understanding the impact that they're making, and bringing that connection back into this ecosystem, which doesn't exist today. So,
all right, so let me ask you, like I said, because I'm a low tech redneck. I'm just learning about computers and phones and all that stuff. But I have friends, they have websites. I forget to go to websites. They're like, yeah, go to the website every day and do your posting. And I'm like, I totally forget. But I know that if it's on my screen, I'm going to go to it every day, because it's not, I'm seeing it every day. And that's what I was telling my wife before I got on. I'm like, that is the smartest idea, to actually have an app where somebody could just click it. Because sometimes you might be like, you know what? Something hit my heart today. I really feel like donating, but I don't want to have to go to this so-and-so's website and go through all this. If I can just go to an app, click the button, it's so much easier. And I think it's only going to, with an app, it's only going to get easier, because people are always on their phones. Just look at a restaurant, at every single table, there's people on their phones. So talk about that aspect of the ease, because if you make something easier and faster, people are more likely to do it.
Sure. I think one of the things that we took into consideration was not changing user behavior, right? So, everyone uses the Apple or Google Wallet. Everyone's used to paying for things with their phone. Everyone's used to surfing on their phone. And we wanted to make it convenient, fast, simple, and transparent, really go back to that macro transparency problem, which nobody else seems to be able to fix, after the only innovation that's happened in charitable giving was in 2010 when GoFundMe came on the market. There's been nothing else, and they're essentially built on old banking rails. So although they have an app, like they haven't been able to fix any of the problems that they still had in 2010 that they still have today. So it's the same old platform. The charitable giving industry needed some change and really needed some innovation to capture those younger donors. I think a lot of the younger donors that are in their 20s and 30s, they're looking for solutions where they can understand where their money's going, right? I think, and that's really where the world's going, and to have that flexibility to always understand and have it simply on your phone, where you can easily make a donation, get rewards and get rewarded for that, tax deduction for that, and donate to any charity that you wanted to instantly, and always understand where that money's going is a powerful thing. And we're not changing user behavior in any way. So users can use their own credit cards or whatever, and just make those donations, and they can always understand what happens to their money in real time, and they don't have to do a single thing. That's all managed right in the platform for them, and very simple for them to look at and just go back.
Okay, if you don't mind me asking a personal question,
Sure.
Because my mentor, Mr. Ed Milet, when we talked, and I was telling him, what I wanted to do, and he said, "Rich, you need to make your message." And he said, "Anything that's ever happened in my life has happened for me and not to me, and everything is a teachable moment." So, take us back to the day after your car wreck. Did you, and from then on, have you realized, that happened for me, and now because I've already almost ended it all, now I want to live every day because I know there's a shelf life. So talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people that are listening to this are veterans, first responders, and they've all seen crap. But it seems like once they survived it, it's when they become unstoppable because they already know, I almost did the bullet once. I got a shelf life. Now I got to make it count.
It wasn't like that for me initially. So like, I got to say, like, my first reaction was like, naturally, what was like, save your image, right? You fucked up as your front page news. You really made a huge mistake. You're facing a lot of time in prison. My first thing was bury the story, bury it, like, how do I bury the story? Like, and I was trying really hard to do that. I couldn't do it. And so I think what happened for me was I came to accept the fact that this is part of my story. And, it's funny that I do listen to that whole Ed Milet thing. Is like, it was the first time in my life that my two worlds collided. I had this image of myself, this successful business guy. This is who I was, right? But Chase Harmer, the personal guy, he's fucked up, but like, no one actually sees that shit, And so like, I had these two separate worlds, and then the first time the worlds collided, and everyone knew that I was not like, I basically had all this huge flaw, and it really was a mortifying experience. It really just kind of like, I was like, oh my God, it's just, it was tough for me to deal with, and to crawl out of that hole and, be able to, face the world again, because I just wanted to crawl into a hole and like, not, I was like, fuck, I just wanted to hide, like, I didn't want anyone to see who I really was, but I think it's during those times that you really, if you have the resilience, if you have the ability to just look at yourself in the mirror and say, dude, what the fuck, like, get your fucking shit together. Like, this is a short life. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could have died, but I could have died 11 times before that, but that didn't change my behavior. My behavior was reckless. And, I think, and there was nothing that was really going to change it until like, it got to the point where I was like, holy shit, like, wow, like, I really fucked up, And so, that was, but dealing with that, essentially, trying to bury that story was my first reaction. It was like, oh my God, like you got to save this image. You got to save this like image that you have of yourself. But the reality is that like you never change behavior. You know, if you just bury that story, somehow you could bury that story and then it just goes away, you know. But the reality is it just didn't go away. And I was just like, well, fuck, like this is just like, it's part of my story. Like you got to face those facts. Like, yes, I fucked up. Yeah. You know, yes, I'm not perfect, you know, but and yes, I almost lost everything. Right. But because and that's why I say the value of when you make it, and then you lose it and then you can somehow make it again, I think the value of the person is really just like, what can you do with nothing? Yeah, like, yeah, you can give and like do all these things, but like, if you lost it all tomorrow, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you fucking made of? You know what I mean? Like what the fuck can you do now? Like, if you lost it all, you start over from scratch. You're 40, you're 42 years old. What the fuck do you do? And it's like, fuck it, like let's go again, like build it all again and like get out of the fucking closet, stop fucking crying about the shit. It's like deal with your shit. you know if you can't deal with your shit, um you're going to be stuck in that closet and it's game over. So you have a choice, I think, in this world. The choice is, you know man up, woman up, like face your demons, and realize that those demons are not necessarily like, God puts things in your life, like he made us all different, and everyone is very unique. But there's no perfect human being out there, that exists. Like, really, everyone has their own flaws. Some are more fucked up than others, but if you don't address those fucked up parts of you and embrace that, you're just losing, you're living an unauthentic life. And the thing about being unauthentic is that people smell your bullshit. They know that you're hiding stuff. Even though you are talking a good game, it's not, it's the game that everyone it sees. Like, you're not fooling anyone, So you need to you need to face who the fuck you are, and become a better version of yourself. Because if you don't become a better version of yourself, you'll just end up in a worse mess, but you also won't be able to gain traction and move your life forward. It's just kind of like, it's the way of the world. It's like, I think when you have a lot of controversy and problems that exist in your ecosystem, it's because God wants to shake you up and be like, yo, like, listen, motherfucker, like, you need to get your shit together. Like, and sometimes that requires like pretty scary shit, like, and like a big, pretty abrupt wake up call. But I think sometimes without those abrupt wake up calls, like, the potential that you have within you, it never gets fulfilled. And I think that's kind of the way of the world. Like, you either come out of the closet and be like, yo, like, okay, I gotta fix this. I look like a fucking asshole, and yeah, I fucking made mistakes, but like, shit, if I don't get out of the closet and actually start doing the work, man, it's game over. And so, but the only one that can actually take that fat lady off the stage is you. Like, take the microphone out of her hand. It's not time for her to sing. You get back on the stage and start, building your life back up. It's, you either go or you sit down and do nothing. So that's the choice. You sit down and do nothing and wilt away, and all that potential is lost. Or you get up on the stage and you face your fears and you power through it. And then one day it doesn't feel like a car wreck anymore. One day, because I carried that weight around with me for, 2 years, where I was just like, that's who I was. I was like, I felt like everyone saw me as that, but no one sees you as that, except you, really. Yeah, that shit happened. But like, you're the one that's weighing yourself down, and the only way to power through that and get it out of your mind. And yeah, that'll always exist to me. That always happened, but now it's a more authentic version of myself, because I can just say, hey, listen, yeah, fuck, that did happen. Yeah, actually did, but me trying to hide it and bury it doesn't, it makes me live an unauthentic life. And I think authenticity is the hardest thing to do as a human. We all have shit that we want to hide and put behind the closet, and I'm not saying that you have to expose everything about yourself, but definitely you're not living an authentic life if you can't just be honest about who you are.
So you
So
mean you're not supposed to write a book and put all your dirty shit out there like I did?
well, no, do that at some point. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well, I think you just channeled your Andy Frisella, your inner Andy Frisella, right there, brother. I appreciate it. But last question is, this is a teaching podcast, and our ideal avatar is a 45-year-old male, father of 3, veteran, brand new business owner. So, because you've been up and down a couple of times in business,
Yep.
what would be your top 3 pieces of advice if somebody was going to start a business today, November 29th, 2023?
Well, it's the holidays, so not the greatest time to start a business. But I would say actually it's a great time to start a business because of the fact that everyone's not paying attention and you can do the ground floor work. But I think not comparing yourself to anyone else. It's easy to start comparing yourself and your journey to other successful people, but that's not the greatest thing to do. You just got to understand that your journey is always going to be different than anyone else's, and you know it's never going to be pretty. If you're opening up a store that's been done before and you're following a recipe, then you have a game plan. And I think whatever game plan you're starting out with, as a number 2 is like, that's always going to change. Don't be afraid to change the game plan as you start building that business, because you're going to understand that this isn't, like people aren't responding to this particular thing or that particular thing, because as you start growing the thing, you learn things as you grow. And so don't be afraid to make pivots and change the business a little bit to adapt to whatever is happening in the market, or whatever you're seeing that's not being receptive by those customers. And I think finally is that never give up on yourself, man. I mean, the only one that, and I said this a couple of times, but it's true. It's because a lot of times we as entrepreneurs and founders, we're hard on ourselves. We're very, very hard on ourselves. And I think you got to give yourself a little credit, when credit's due. The small baby steps, they don't feel like shit when you're comparing yourself to someone else. You're like, holy shit, I'm fucking so far away from this, but at the end of the day, those baby steps count. And if you keep on making those steps day after day, week after week, month after month, they begin to show up and people notice, and you can build a successful business. But it just takes time. You have to have patience, and you have to have the perseverance to have faith in yourself, and that you can do it, and just keep going forward. So
Chase, so talk to us. How do we get involved with the company? I know you're about to have a big launch.
Yep.
So how do we get involved with the company? How do we support your mission?
Yeah, sure. So, if you're a donor or you have a story that you want to create for a charity or a cause or a crisis, you'll be able to download the app in the iPhone App Store. Here's Wishes Inc. That'll be here very soon, hopefully in the next few weeks. We're trying to launch before Christmas here. The last few steps before the bank compliance approvals and things like this. But we're already approved in the App Store, just waiting for the green light. So I think if you go to wishes.inc, you can also register in one of the funnels there if you're a wisher, donor, or a charity. And we'll get your information, get you on the wait list, and then we'll get you back in contact if we are not launched at that time. But also, you can reach me on LinkedIn directly if you'd like to contact me or send me a message, Chase Tarmer on LinkedIn, and love to hear from you. So,
Chase, brother, I'm so glad that we finally got to hang out and shoot the shit. I'm so grateful for you, brother. So guys, I just want to say, if you guys want to check this episode out, it's going to be on Vertical Momentum Resiliency Podcast. It's already live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Check it out. And make sure you share this with somebody, because we talk about business, but we also talked about stuff that can be life changing. So, brother, I just want to say thank you. I'm truly humbled and grateful that we finally got together, and hopefully we can build a generational relationship from this day forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, Richard, it's been real, and it's been real fun. And so I appreciate the time, and thank you guys, and look forward to seeing look forward to seeing you guys on Wishes. So,
all right, brother, be good. And guys, remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up, and you're not going to want to miss the episode that's coming out at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. We're going to talk into an active duty veteran that has over 33 million followers on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And he's booking all the top guests on all podcasts. You're not going to want to miss this episode. So 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, guys. I love you. Chase, my brother. Have an amazing week. Keep kicking ass. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be the first one to download that app.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Have a great week.
All right, man. Bye-bye.